Hello, and welcome to the 2021 conference of the Illinois Association of Free and Charitable Clinics. The Illinois Association of Free and Charitable Clinics strengthens and grows Illinois' free and charitable clinics, without whom over 100,000 uninsured and underinsured patients would otherwise have no access to quality healthcare. The IFCC helps free and charitable clinics move effectively into the future, advocates for the uninsured, supports clinics' volunteer workforce, and connects clinics to resources. This year's conference theme is New Decade, New Challenges, New Solutions. We're so grateful to all of our conference sponsors. The title of this presentation is Getting Up to Speed on Social Media. And I am Christina Elizabeth Rodriguez-Estrada. I am a marketing manager for member community at one of the top telehealth companies. Let's get started on social media. As we all know, social media isn't going anywhere. There are many reasons to be on social, which include free advertising, because you are promoting yourself. Social also helps to tell and shape the story that you want to tell. Social media allows for community building, as well as sharing of content and resources that are relevant to your audience. This also opens up the opportunity for a two-way street with patients for servicing, meaning patients can come to your social media platforms to learn more about what is offered, as well as a way to engage with the clinic. Additionally, being on social media helps in search engine optimization. This means that as long as you are posting to social media, when it comes to search and Google searches, people will find your clinic easier. The more you have your name out there, the more that you talk about certain services and opportunities for patients to engage with you, Google will help in elevating the status of your clinic on its pages. If you need to learn more, there are opportunities to use Google to find out more about SEO. However, I'm also available to talk more about this in detail. So let's ask the questions that are most important here. Does your clinic have a website? Do you have a Facebook page, a Twitter profile, an Instagram account? And if you have all of that, do you also have a social media strategy? And that's what we're going to talk about today, because a lot of the times, smaller organizations like nonprofits, like clinics who are strapped for resources, usually will have Facebook pages, Twitter profiles, Instagram accounts, but they will not have a social media strategy, which is usually what causes people to not want to be on social, not find it important, and ultimately it becomes an underutilized channel for the clinic, when in reality it could be something that benefits not only you as the clinic or as the administration, but also helps to engage the audiences on a different level, basically finding them where they are. So let's talk about a social media strategy. This is your plan of action. What are we going to do with your social media channels? To begin, let's talk about what the goal is for your channel. So besides being told that it's a good idea, what's the purpose of being on social media for your clinic? Is this something that has always been a want or a need? Is it because of funding? Is it because you think that you have a lot to offer followers and fans on a digital platform? Or is it just because everyone else is on it and that's where you want to be? Well, we really have to think about what the goal is for the overall strategy and your channels. So some examples is, to develop a local human connection with our patients, or to share insightful content about our clinic and the work being done. These are very simple strategy statements that can help to shape what your plan of action looks like when sharing and posting to social media. Secondly, we have to think about what type of content we want to share. There's something that I really am dedicated to, which are content pillars. And these are the topics that you want to talk about on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis. And so it could be anything from, featuring physicians or featuring your staff, sharing educational content around certain observances. For example, March was Kidney Health Awareness Month. November is National Diabetes Month. There are certain ailments, for lack of a better word, certain conditions that are featured and talked about on a monthly basis. How do you jump on the bandwagon to also provide insight and credible information around these topics for your patients? Another content pillar could just simply be services provided. Is there something that you can offer your patients that not a lot of clinics around you offer? Is there something that you can really use as a selling point for people to come and visit, and set up an appointment with you? The last thing that we have to really think about, and just to go back to the content pillars and the type of content you want to share, it's good to have anywhere between 3 and 5 content pillars. This can help when you're posting on a daily basis, when you're posting on a weekly basis, because every day will be something new. For example, Mondays can be motivational Mondays. Tuesdays can be testimonial Tuesdays. They don't always have to be, there doesn't have to be alliteration for every, for every day, but just think about how this will help you plan out your content in the future. The one thing that you want to do is make planning the easiest thing. And so if you shape out your strategy or your plan of action before even coming up with the type of content or examples of content that you want to share on your channels, make an outline for yourself to know what your goals are, the type of content you want to share, and lastly, the cadence for sharing to your channels. When we look at best practices, Facebook says to post daily. And we actually see that in different industries outside of healthcare, more like retail, if they post multiple times a day, they do get the engagement that they're looking for. For the reason for lack of resources or lack of content, Facebook can always be posted on a daily basis, 4 times a week at the least, in order to get the most out of the channel. For Twitter, this takes a little bit more effort. However, it's easier to post to Twitter. Best practices say that we want to post multiple times daily. However, this also includes engaging with people on your channels. So if you see that somebody is asking a question or engaging with you on Twitter, or if you see that there's a conversation going on that you can interject with or you can take part in, those are ways that you can post multiple times daily as a conversation and still get the most out of the channel. For Instagram, it's recommended to post anywhere between 2 and 3 times per week. This channel can also be posted on a daily basis. Understand that the more that you post on your social channels, the more opportunity you have for engagement and the more opportunity for reach. Now, this might be getting into a little bit more of the paid side of things, which is something that a lot of people have questions about. However, you want to just remember that if you use any paid strategies, you really have to be even more strategic about it. Right now, Facebook, for example, if you post organically, meaning you post to your page without any paid initiative, meaning no boosted posts, no ads. Facebook only shows your content to 10% of your following. It's something to really consider and really think about. So if Facebook is only showing your post from today to only 10% of your following, the way that you're going to increase that reach is by posting more frequently. This also gives you the opportunity to engage your followers, have them post positively, and have them share out content that you are sharing with them. This is just one example, but Facebook is the one channel that most clinics are going to be on, and the easiest to get on for that matter. So where to get started? Get organized. We have to consider how the timing and how often that we want to post on your channels. This is an example of an editorial calendar. As you can see, starting at the left side, you have your dates, then you have your topics. The Facebook copy should then go next. It should be short and sweet and to the point. This doesn't mean that it has to be 90 characters or as long as a tweet, but you also want to be sure that you're not writing a paragraph of information that's going to take anyone too long to read. Looking at Twitter, the copy has a limit of 280 characters. So be sure that the message is as long as it needs to be, but you also don't have to max it out. On the next column, we see you can add your links or creative. So if you are, let's say you're posting blogs on a consistent basis to your website, let's add a link here so that you know where you're going to add the link on your post. Finally, the last column is the KPI. This is the key performance indicator. So what is it that you want people to do when they are on that post? So let's say on July 8th, you post some sort of announcement. Let's use the IFCC conference as an example. So we would post under topic, IFCC conference, the Facebook copy. What do we want to say? And in the last couple of weeks, hopefully you've seen our Facebook posts. Things have been said like, remember to join us for our 10th annual virtual conference. Short, sweet, and to the point, and you're telling people exactly what they want or what you want them to do, excuse me. And so in this case, we would add a link to the registration page. Our key performance indicator, and at this point, would be a click-through. You want someone to click on the link and go all the way through to your website so that they see the content that's being shared and the content that you want them to see. And ultimately, the conversion is them actually signing up for the conference. So this can have two KPIs. One KPI is the click. The second KPI is the conversion. The conversion is getting people to actually perform the action that you ask them to perform. Again, you don't necessarily have to post every day on all platforms. However, if you develop a campaign, let's say, a campaign meaning similar posts that are going to go out throughout a cadence, throughout a week, throughout a month, this editorial calendar is going to be a saving grace. And I tell you that from experience. So planning everything out, making sure your posts are in something that look like this makes it easy to just pull it up, copy and paste, put your links in, any creative, meaning any assets like pictures or screenshots or a video. Any of these are considered creative assets that could be added to your posts. Using a scheduling tool also helps so much. Facebook allows you to set up posts weeks at a time or months at a time. You can also use things like TweetDeck or Hootsuite that'll help you schedule content on Twitter. Facebook also, under the Creator Studio in Facebook, you can also set up posts to go live on Instagram on a schedule. And also, when it comes to your creative, make sure that your creative elements are fun and engaging. And always think about like what's going to make you click on that post. What's going to call your attention to that post? So using free assets like free platforms like Canva can really help take your creative elements to the next level. So let's say that you've planned out all of your content for an entire month, and now you're looking at the metrics. The metrics can be found through insights. Facebook and Instagram call them insights. Twitter, I cannot recall off the top of my head what they call them, but every platform has a way of taking a look at your insights and how your content is performing. So there are a lot of different metrics that can be collected from each social media platform. And I've laid out here some of the most important, especially when launching a new strategy. So let's say that, you come off of this presentation and you're just so excited to start your new strategy on your social channels, and you take all of my advice, you come up with a goal, you come up with your content pillars, you come up with your cadence, you develop an editorial calendar, and now how do you know when your content is performing at its best? Well, let's take a look at these metrics. So these are some simple and basic metrics that you're going to find in your insights, in what you pull off of your social channels. And so here are the definitions for them. So reach is something that you really want to make sure that you're keeping track of. It defines how many individuals actually saw your content. So when you see that number, it's going to be a certain percentage or a certain chunk of the amount of followers that you have on that channel. Impressions. So impressions is how many times people actually see your content. So let's say your reach was 100 people. However, those 100 people saw your post 2 times each. So your impressions are 200 impressions. Engagements. Engagements are considered to be likes, comments, shares, clicks, retweets, replies, saves, any of the actions taken on your post. Whatever causes someone to actually perform an action on that post. If they perform an action, that means that it resonated with them. The more actions you see, even those angry little emojis that you find on Facebook, counts as an engagement. Link clicks. If you're sharing content to your website, if you're sharing content to a blog, link clicks are very important. This means that somebody actually performed that click. They saw the link, they clicked on it, and they were led to your website. This is important, especially if you are trying to attract people to your website and you're pointing people to certain content that lives on your website. Then you have your followers. So people who follow your page. I say followers as opposed to fans because the majority of these platforms use the word followers. Facebook also uses followers and they also use fans. The difference is very, very minute. A follower on Facebook means that they follow your page and they will still see your content. If they're one of the lucky few, they will still see your content on their timeline. However, a fan is someone who likes your page and also likes your page, and as a fan, they on their own profile, you will see that they liked your page. So for example, if I am a fan of IFCC's Facebook page, you will be able to go to my profile and see that I actually liked it. It's connected to my profile. As a follower, that's the only difference, that it is not connected to your profile. Few and far between, like just tiny, minute, like changes and differences, it's not going to make a difference. I advise you to look at your followers as opposed to your fans or people who liked your page. Engagement rate. So engagement rate basically gives you a percentage, right? How successful or how engaging your content is. So this is calculated by taking the number of engagements and dividing that by the number of impressions, then multiplying that by 100, as we learned in grammar school. In order to get a percentage rate, multiply by 100. And so the click-through rate is similarly calculated. So you take the number of link clicks, divide it by the impressions that you have on that post, and then multiply by 100. This gives you rough or percentages of how your posts are doing. Usually for an engagement rate on a page, you can do, it's easy to do. Click-through rates, I advise that you just calculate click-through rates per post as opposed to your overall page. So just a couple pieces of advice. When it comes to the presentations or the presentation of your metrics, in case board of directors or leadership wants to see just how you're performing, these are sample numbers. However, this is how I use this chart. And it does really well with my leadership. It does really well with any like higher ups that want to see just how we're performing on social media. And so I list off how many posts we have per month, our reach, the impressions, the number of engagements, link clicks, the engagement rate, and the number of followers. And obviously these numbers are really high. The channels that I manage are pretty large. And then on this column here and change in metric, you would actually put the difference, right? So we would see a -5 here and negative, right? We would add negatives and positives to the changes. So when tracking metrics, you have to be sure to review what worked and why. So you look at your posts, look at the copy, look at the images that you chose to share out with those posts and with that copy. Because when you look at each post that was sent out during the month, it's easy to really understand why they performed well and why they didn't. So using your first month, if you start tracking as a benchmark, is a great place to start. It gives you a foundational level of where you are at the present moment. And as you go on, you can grow from there and make sure that you're tracking changes in metrics. As a social media professional myself and as a marketing manager, I'm sure to keep the library of content. So not only do I track metrics, but I also track my highest performing pieces of content. I take screenshots of what they look like, just so that I'm also aware of the strategy and the ideas that I had the prior month. That way, after a year, you'll have your entire collection of campaigns, entire collection of content and things that worked well, so that you can always look back and say, hey, my May content worked really well. Let's see what we can do the following year, right? Or if you start tracking on a monthly basis and you start realizing, hey, these short little videos work really well. Let's do more of those because people will see it. And by the way, videos work very well on social media because it's easy to digest the information that's being given. And platforms like Facebook, for example, and Instagram will prioritize video over static content, meaning that they'll actually show it to more people who follow you or that search and find you. So there is, the algorithms that work behind the scenes that we love and hate all at the same time. If you play nicely with them, they will play nicely with you and help to increase that reach, which is ultimately what you want overall for your social media strategy to work as well as it can. Okay, so a few tips from the pro. I am the pro. And so I want to be sure that I leave you with some great tips that I know that I've valued, and it's, things have been passed on to me. And after being a social media professional since around 2009, there are a lot of different things that have stuck with me, that have resonated with me when working on social, and that I know work well. And so a lot of that is basic information that I've just shared with you in this presentation. And I just want you to remember that, social media, although it seems like a quick win and something that, anybody can do, it's not as easy as that. And as you engage and as you work with social media, you'll also see that um, it is a time consuming commitment, and you have to dedicate that time and dedicate that energy to making sure that you're doing this well and you're being consistent. And I think above everything else, consistency is key. If you have someone at your clinic who's going to be doing your social media strategy, and basically you're handing this off to them because they're the millennial or the youngest person in the group, um, please have some leniency. And please don't expect them to know exactly everything that's going on. These channels have become more sophisticated over time. And as much as you would like to think or assume that just because someone has their own personal social channels, they know exactly what a good strategy is not necessarily the case. And so it does take a team to really think about, like I said, think about the goals, think about the strategy, think about that cadence, think about those content pillars, and really be able to shape what it is that the story that you're telling about your clinic, about your services, and about you. So it does take a village to make this work and work very well. So just some tips, as I mentioned before I went off on my tangent, but do not be afraid to test out content. I tell this to a lot of different people all the time. If you see a really great video and you can make a similar video for your efforts, do it and test it out and see how it performs. Always give your content at least a good week to sit on your pages and before you actually start analyzing them. Again, this is a slow endeavor, but in the long run, it will pay off if you give it the right kind of investment. Learning what resonates with your audience is going to be the key in developing good, even great content. So let's say that, so if you've taken a look at the IFCC Facebook pages, you'll see that we've been posting this past month for March, it was Women's History Month. So we were posting content about women in medicine and women in healthcare. And so we were able to see, how many people like that content? Did anybody share that content? And so if you post something like that and maybe it doesn't resonate well and you don't see any lift off of it, then maybe you shouldn't post that again. But let's say you post something about your key services and your core values of the clinic, and people really like that, it resonates with them, they share that out on their own social pages, you've hit gold. You've hit something that resonated with your followers, and that is what's going to work well. So keep posting things like that. There's no shame in learning what is going to engage your audience, and in that way, and then posting more of it, because as long as that's what they want and that's what they're engaging with, feel free to go ahead and do that. But also don't be limited to those one or two things that perform really well. Really try and test and learn as you go. Keep the things that work, get rid of the things that don't, and try and add new things as you go on. It is very tedious, and it does take some time, but like I said, if you invest in this social strategy, it'll pay off for you. Ask your followers to do something. So in this case, like I said, as an example, IFCC posted register now for the conference. That's something that we asked our members to do. And so when they see a directive and they see something that you're asking them to perform, an action that you're asking them to perform, if they value and they advocate for your clinic, and they know that, you know, they're loyal to your clinic, they're going to perform that action. So, and this can be anybody. It doesn't necessarily have to be a patient. It could be a supporter. It could be a donor. But as long as they know what it is that you want them to do, a lot of those people will perform that action. Do not feel discouraged if your content does not get the engagement that you were expecting. There's a lot of content out there. And so please do not get discouraged. If you don't see the engagement that you want, just know that with every post, you're increasing your reach and you're helping your reach to expand. So there is something that goes into posting as frequently as you want, and just know that it's not for nothing. Dedicate the time that you need to do this well, and the investment will pay off. I keep saying this over and over again, but also, you know, when it comes to limited resources and it comes to folks that are doing, you know, wearing many hats and have a lot of different responsibilities, you also have to remember that, you know, you can dedicate 2 hours every week to developing content for that week. You can spend 4 hours every month developing content for the month. It's not as easy as that, but as long as there's a skeleton, as long as there's an idea for what type of content you want to post, that's better than trying to come up with something on a daily basis and posting it without thinking about it. So there is something to say for planning sessions. There is something to say for taking that time that you need to really think about the type of content from a higher level perspective of what the entire month is going to look like. So just remember that time and dedication is needed to properly execute on these channels. And lastly, you know, social media is not a quick fix, but it should be considered part of your larger marketing, PR, communications plan. Overall, you know, it is needed. We're not, like, social is not going anywhere. And I think it's important for people to remember that. Lastly, if there are any questions regarding this presentation, please do not hesitate to reach out to me directly. You know, I'm happy to answer any questions whatsoever. I'm happy to dedicate the time. And on that note, I want to thank you all for listening into this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. And also, please be sure to check out the rest of our conference presentations at illinoisfreeclinics.org. Again, my name is Christina Rodriguez-Estrada, and thank you again.